Hey, how's it going? Welcome back. I'm doing a contest response for Dennis over at Analog Archives. He hit 1,000 subscribers and as a result is doing a contest to celebrate such a feat. Um, Dennis is a great dude. He shows a lot of really obscure metal, a lot of demos and shit. He's into, quality hardcore and punk, lots of horror movies, lots of toys, just lots of ephemera in general. Um, his collection seems pretty much limitless. So yeah, if you're into metal and you're not subscribed to Dennis, I suggest you head over there right now and do so. You're doing yourself a disservice by not subscribing to him. So yeah, congrats, Dennis, and he's got this contest going. Really 4.5 questions. The first portion will be mostly a discussion period. The second will be the show and tell aspect of it. So yeah, first question. Tell me about some of your favorite shows or concerts and why. I got a couple in mind here. First one, 1980, 1981. I was still a child. My aunt was dating this dude named Roy who played bass in a rock band called Furface and the Spectacles. It's so named because they all had facial hair and wore glasses. He was from a place called Meaford, which is about 3 hours northwest of Toronto. There was a weekend kind of a festival going on up there, and I went with him. His band was playing. When we got there, I found that it was, kind of like a campground in a way. There was like a valley or a ravine type thing, and there was a stage built in the bottom of it at the one end. I went down there. Like I had actually been to shows by that time with my mom. She used to take me to those shows in the public parks and stuff. Like I remember she took me to see like Bachman Turner Overdrive at one point. But this was not like that. Like the BTO show, it was packed and there was no way you could get anywhere near to the stage or whatever. And in this, you could just walk right up. So immediately I thought that was kind of cool, albeit a little scary. There was a guy on the stage. He was, rolling around and jumping around and acting a fool. But it didn't sound like any music I'd heard before. It didn't sound like BTO. It didn't sound like, Meatloaf or fucking Journey or whatever. And it turned out the band was Teenage Head. So, in my mind, I think that's the point where it opened me up to the fact that there's a whole world of music that you're not going to hear on the radio. And I might not, at that point in my life, like I said, I was a child. I might not have been able to string it together that concisely in my head, but I'm pretty sure that's what led to, where I'm at today from a musical tastes standpoint. As a side note, my aunt's boyfriend, Roy, shortly after that, he apparently went missing under dubious circumstances and was never found again. So there's kind of a murder mystery element to it. And as another side note on the subject of Teenage Head, R.I.P. to Gord Lewis, guitar player from Teenage Head. If you're unaware, he was found deceased in his apartment in Hamilton a few weeks back, and his son has been charged. Apparently, his kid is a real piece of work. So that's a huge tragedy, huge loss to the city of Hamilton's music scene, huge loss to the worldwide punk community. Like Teenage Head are hugely influential. So R.I.P. All right, now the second show I'm thinking of was in London, Ontario. It was in August of 1987 when Beyond Possession rolled through town. They're from Calgary, Alberta. Now, I was into punk at that point in time. I had been to, a fair amount of shows by then. But this show was different. It was different in the way that, most of the kind of punk that I was into at that point in time was like the UK-82, like Studs and Spikes, Mohawks type shit. And I was aware of North American hardcore and punk. I guess I liked the visuals of the UK punks, but I was familiar with Minor Threat and I loved them and SNFU and shit like that. But this was the first show I'd seen that had kind of an element of danger to it. Like the singer of Beyond Possession, he would sing, but he would get right in your face, and I hadn't experienced that before. And he was older than us, and he was kind of an intimidating guy. Like he had a lot of tattoos. Well, I guess a lot of tattoos for then, because in 1987, tattoos were pretty edgy. I don't know. He was just kind of intimidating, and it kind of made me respect, hardcore that was closer to home, And I've seen this kind of thing a million times since, but that was the first time, and it sticks with me. And then the last is just a fantastic show. It was a house show in Buffalo. It was in the basement. 2 bands from Ohio. You had Gordon Soley Motherfuckers and Boulder. Then you had Countdown to Oblivion from Toronto. And then 2 Buffalo locals, No Time Left and Trapped Inside. All the bands are great. But it's just a fantastic show. Like Gordon Soley Motherfuckers, easily one of the best live bands I've ever seen. You got Tony Erba doing vocals, being a fucking lunatic. Still, a good friend of mine to this day. Love that dude. He's always entertaining. Any band that he's in, guaranteed winner. So, just that show, no real reason in particular. It was just a fucking awesome show. Okay, 1B. Tell me about something eventful that's happened at a show or concert. I had a couple of those. Back in the late 80s, London, Ontario. Went to see this band called Problem Children, who were from Dunnville, Ontario, which is just outside of Hamilton. They brought with them another Hamilton band called the Heimlich Maneuver. Now, a couple of friends and myself went up. The guy who drove, his girlfriend was more of a norm, like she wasn't into punk or anything. She just came because she was his girlfriend. And of course, she developed a headache during it, because that's what punk's for. She went into the washroom to kind of get out of the loud room. A girl in the washroom offered her an aspirin. And as it turns out, it was not an aspirin. She started talking to herself and just having a fucking out-of-body experience and being insane. So we had to take off, and we ended up spending hours and hours sitting in the waiting room at the hospital while she was getting checked out and getting her stomach pumped and whatnot. And I still know that girl to this day, and she is batshit crazy still. So I don't know if it affected her for the rest of her life or whatever. But that was fucked up. During the 90s, we went to Detroit, to Harpo's, kind of a famous venue there, to see, it was the Misfits, Guar, Murphy's Law, and REO Speed Dealer. Now, to get to Detroit, it's about 2 hours for us, like, by car. Takes, depending, say about 3 hours once you're across the border and you're at the venue. So we all had to take a piss. So we roll up to this alleyway by the venue. We just jumped out and went in and started taking a piss. Next thing you know, headlights just wash over us, people yelling, and cops with guns drawn on us because they thought we were doing something sketchy, which we weren't, unless taking a piss is sketchy. And then the guy who was in charge of the cops was not impressed that, us Canadian boys came over and pissed in his alley, and all that. And it was just, nobody got charged or anything. Nobody got shot or beaten, but it was just weird. On that same trip, we had walked to go find an ATM machine, and we had some really sketchy dude following us, like asking us if we were lost and trying to talk us into going to a party at his buddy's house. And we were like, fuck you, dude. But anyways, yeah, Detroit, no joke sometimes. And then lastly, London, Ontario. I used to play in a band called Poison Spur. There was a house show. We were playing in the basement. Creeper from Toronto was down. There was some other locals. The only one I can remember was The Syndrome, who were a great local band. But in between bands, we were upstairs in the living room. Everybody is drunk. Not me, but everybody else pretty much is drunk. There was this really skinny kid with dreads that was like super drunk. He sits on the couch and passes out. So one of the guys that lives at the house, a dude by the name of Thumper, he's drunk, but he's getting in the kid's face. The kid, he's sleeping, he can't hear him anyway, but he's getting in the kid's face, and he's like, wake the fuck up, nobody passes out at my parties, and blah, 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 and whatever. So I'm sitting there talking to my drummer, and I turn around just in time to see Thumper pissing on this kid's face while he's passed out on the couch. So I had the wherewithal to grab my camera and I snapped a picture because that's ridiculous. So he's pissing all over this kid who's batting the stream out of his face in a, drunken sleeping daze. And it's going all over like the couch, which is owned by the guy who's pissing on it. So it was just ridiculous, and it's something that sticks in my head forever. Okay, second, question 2. Other music you listen to besides metal, and some examples. Now, I listen to a fair amount of metal, but primarily I listen to a lot of punk and hardcore and power pop. So I got a few examples of the punk stuff. Angry Samoans, 1982, Bad Trip Records. Top 10 record for me. Love this thing since I first heard it way back when. Kind of controversial, sarcastic, very well written and catchy. The production on this is perfect for this band. It's loud, it's really crunchy. It's got no excess noise to it at all. Everything done in the recording of this is on purpose, or so it seems. Fantastic record. A little bit of trivia: the guitar player on this record was in Cirith Ungol before he was in Angry Samoans. The more you know. Next up, band from Lansing, Michigan, Alternative Tentacles Records, 1984, the Crucifucks, self-titled LP. Again, very controversial band, very political. Not for the faint of heart. Normal music consumers, like people who are just into radio music, would have a hard time listening to this. Musically, like musicianship on it is good. Vocals, he's got this cracking, out of key, kind of rambling vocal style that is absolutely meant to be obnoxious on purpose. Not an easy listen, but god damn it, is this good. Don't see this one around much anymore. It used to be everywhere, but it's a hard one to find. Lastly, more on the hardcore tip, classic Toronto band, Youth. It's the Sin 12-inch on Fringe Product. It's from like 83. Like I said, great hardcore punk band. Vocals delivered in a spoken style. Musicianship's really good. The songs are really laid back and they flow really well. Very political. Just a great Toronto hardcore band. All the Youth stuff's getting reissued, and it's kind of one of those deals where it should be out any day now. So if you happen to see this stuff, the reissues of it, because the originals are pretty hard to find and they're fairly pricey, but the reissues, I'm assuming they won't be, pick them up. Well worth it. And for power pop, we got a band from Los Angeles. A lot of people know them, but The Nerves. It's the 25th anniversary 10-inch. It's on Penniman Records from 2001. Songs recorded in 1976. I was going to show their self-titled 7-inch from 76, but I don't have an original. I just have the Splattered Records reissue from 2020. But it's filed away, and I didn't feel like digging it out. So anyways, fantastic power pop band. Largely considered to be the best power pop band ever. I would probably agree with that. 3-piece, you had Peter Case, Jack Lee, and Paul Collins. Yeah, this is like everything they did was great. Blondie made Hanging on the Telephone fairly popular, but nothing beats the original. So The Nerves. And speaking of The Nerves, you have one of their members who went on to, you got Paul Collins, who went on to form The Beat. It's their 1979 LP on Columbia. Again, more of the same, just really well done, rockin' kind of power pop stuff. This is a fairly popular record. You can find it for real cheap pretty much everywhere. And lastly, for the power pop stuff, it's a band from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Songs all were recorded in 1980. It's a band called the Shivvers. Now, from what I've read, the Shivvers were like a high school band, but judging by the photo, there's that just doesn't gel with me. They look a lot older than someone who'd be in high school, but whatever, is what it is. Perfectly written power pop songs, kind of a soulful very young sounding vocalist. She's kind of got her own sound. I've tried to get their Teen Line, like an original copy of the Teen Line single many times, but I always get fucking outbid on it. But yeah, super, super, super good. In the world of power pop. If you've never heard this and you like power pop, definitely check out the Shivvers. This is from like 2020, I think. I think I wrote it down. Yeah, 2020. It's a joint release between Rerun Records and Bachelor Records, but it's still floating around out there. Pick it up. And then lastly, I listen to a lot of like synth pop, but not so much like the new romantic stuff, like that was in the UK and whatnot, but like a lot of the new wave based synth pop stuff. A lot of it has like female vocalists for some reason. I just really like that stuff. Stuff like Berlin, it's the Pleasure Victim LP. It's on Geffen? Yeah, it's on Geffen. It's from 1983. This kind of reminds me if Blondie was way, way, way more synth heavy. It's just really, really good. Like, of course they achieved a lot of mainstream success with, Take My Breath Away, a song that's on the Top Gun soundtrack or whatnot. But their first couple records, just synth pop classics with enough weirdness to make them not shitty mainstream music. So, yeah. Then move to Toronto, 1980, Martha and the Muffins, Metro Music. Joint release between Virgin and Din Disc. Had a huge hit off this with Echo Beach. Heard it all the time on the radio when I was a kid. I still love that song. Like synthy new wave, but there's definitely kind of a rootsy feel to this. But the band, yeah, really good band. So yeah, Martha and the Muffins. And then lastly, we're going to Germany. 1984, band called Belfegore. It's a little more edgy than the other, synth pop stuff I showed. A little heavier, but it still falls into that category as far as I'm concerned. The video for All That I Wanted off this record was, it got regular rotation on Much Music, which was the Canadian, answer to MTV at the time. Singers running down a beach, tripping over people and shit, trying to get away from something that you can't see, kind of like Evil Dead style. It's really, it's good. It's just one of those things. It has nostalgia for me, but I throw it on once in a while, and it's still pretty awesome. And then some of this record kind of veers off into goth territory, and that stuff's pretty good too. So, yeah, Belfegore. 3. Some records you like but know are bad. Now, see, this was the hard one for me, because what's bad is kind of subjective. I think Neil Young and Bob Dylan, absolute dog shit. But there are people there that will, murder you if you say you don't like them, because they're considered the greats. It's just different strokes for different folks. A lot of the music I listen to is intentionally bad. You can't listen to, a Sockeye record and tell me that they're, trying their best, because they're intentionally bad, but they're fucking hilarious and they have that appeal to me. So what I've done is I grabbed a couple records that I tried to look at from a normal mainstream music consumer's viewpoint to something that they would think was absolutely abysmal. So I've come up with this. This is it's a band from Chicago called The Mentally Ill. This is Gacy's Place, the Starbeat Sessions 12-inch. It was recorded in 1979. This was released by Last Laugh in 2020. Now, this band, vocals, much in the way of the Crucifucks, he's got that kind of out of key, kind of rambling, warbling nature to his vocals, intentionally, just bad. Musically, they're not nearly as good as the Crucifucks, from a technical standpoint. Guitars ridiculously overblown and fuzzed out, just crazy sound. Everything that a mainstream music consumer would cringe at is in this band. So yeah, definitely it's bad, but fuck, it rules. Now we'll go into the world of noisecore. If you don't know what noisecore is, it's kind of like grindcore's less tolerable little brother. So a perfect example of this is a band who I believe are from Texas. Not sure the year this came out. They're called Ratten Krieg. The title of the record is Disgrace to the Corpse of Steve Irwin and Killed by Stingray. Definitely kind of a piss take on Sore Throat. This is an 8-inch lathe cut, and there's 179 tracks on this. I believe that's what it was, 179. It sounds like if you loaded a train car up with, silverware, and then just pushed it over a really, really long set of stairs. That's pretty much what Ratten Krieg sounds like. And it's terrible, and there's barely any effort going into it, but I can get behind it. So yeah, it's on Rat Gut Records. I think there's only like 20 or 30 of those even were made. So, and then last we'll end the bad records off with a metal one. This band is oftentimes considered the worst metal band ever, and I was lucky enough to find this record. It's a band called Killer Foxx. The record's called The Night. It's on Landslide Records. It's from 1985. Is it 85? Yeah, 85. This band was from Manchester, New Hampshire. To me, this is kind of like metal exploitation. It's kind of almost in a thrash metal light kind of way, but it's just terribly done. But I can deal with it. But I think a lot of people that are, metal diehards will just be like, Weird thing with this record, there was 3 versions of this released. They all had different titles. It was the same record, just with a different title, which was kind of seemed like randomly just one of the song titles. And then half the members of this band were killed in a car accident. And then so some other label called Metal Underground, decided they were going to release a follow-up record to this, but with no original members of the band at all. I've never heard that one. And then that label, Metal Underground, apparently, decided to start doing records with sketchy, like, racist bands and shit. So fuck those guys. But whatever. Killer Foxx, largely considered to be the worst metal band ever. These guys, KK Fox, Vivian Fox, Mick Stryker, and John Deacon. Yeah, it's totally like metal exploitation. All right, and the fourth and final question. What else do you collect or other hobbies you have besides music? Now, I'm not, like, I don't care for sports. I'm not interested in sports at all, unless it's that crazy, like, wife carrying or chasing that wheel of cheese down the hill and, stuff that's funny. But, I'm not really huge into video games. Like, I'll play them, but I don't really go buy them or anything. One thing I do play, though, is bass. I've played for, years now, like 30, 35 years now or something. I've been involved in 6 projects, playing bass. My bass is a 1979 Kramer DMZ, aluminum neck, maple inlays, ebonol fretboard. It's the same shit bowling balls are made out of. It's essentially paper. Very, very simple construction. Awesome tone with this. It's very heavy. There's a great tone to it. A little different than most basses. I always wanted one. Since I first saw one when I was a kid, I was like, the end of that looks like a tuning fork. And then I finally got a chance, and I've had one ever since. Other than that, I collect stuff, like I collect, like, the odd comic book. I collect, books. I collect, like, movies, physical copies of movies. I like a lot of, like, 70s, a lot of those 70s made-for-TV type horror movies, like Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. Word of advice: if your aunt leaves you a house and an inheritance, and you get there, and there's a fireplace that's bricked up, leave it bricked up. Trust me. Movie scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. Where you get, like, The Baby, which is one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen. Then I'll go into the 80s, get The Pit, listen to what your teddy bear tells you. And some weirdo comedies, like Jekyll and Hyde Together Again, which demands to be seen. If you've never seen this, definitely check it out. The punk band in this is called Ivy and the Shitty Rainbows, which is hilarious. I also collect the odd toy. A lot of like horror movie action figures and shit. Like this Dawn of the Dead zombie. I believe that's the one that got his head chopped off by the helicopter rotor. Music figures. Here's a Lemmy figure from 2007. It says, warning, choking hazard, small parts, not for children under 3. Like anybody's really going to eat Lemmy, but whatever. This badass Devo figure with the interchangeable heads. Or this ridiculously expensive King Diamond figure that's also pretty awesome, but it was a year and a half on pre-order before I got it, but super cool. I mean, besides, you know, action figures, I'll get some of the classier toys I see out there, like Fart the Game. It's object, you guessed it, farting on command is a rare act to be nurtured. At its best, the act blossoms into a rich symphony of sound along with the explosion of powerful gases ripe with pungent odors. At the bottom here it says, includes a whoopee cushion for those who can't. And it does. This was a bang-up thrift store pickup. I'm also into a lot of like cryptozoology and paranormal stuff. I'm not so much interested in UFOs and shit, but I'm into like Bigfoot and like cryptids and like hauntings and stuff like that. Got this badass like Bigfoot statue, which was done by a guy named Jason Shanaman, who does primate sculptures, but he did a limited line of Sasquatch ones. It's actually pretty fucking cool. I got some Bigfoot records. I know I showed that the Sierra Sounds record last time. I know John and Bruce can get on board with me about this Bigfoot stuff, but here's like Rex North's Oh Please Mr. Bigfoot Put Me Down novelty country track. You can get I got here's one of the John Green books, Year of the Sasquatch. He was like a godfather in the world of Bigfoot research early on. Here's an old one, Tales of the Sasquatch. Or even newer books like the Bigfoot Filmography. A must for every home. And then lastly, probably the most interesting thing I collect, I collect inept craftsmanship. Now, I don't often find things that meet the criteria for inept craftsmanship, like at least enough for me to keep it. It's got to make me look at it and go, what the fuck? But it also has to make me laugh, usually out loud. A lot of times, one of the biggest fails in the inept craftsmanship world, for me anyways, is metal casting. Like, you can see some really nice stuff that was cast in bronze that was done very, very well. Like, bronze stuff was real popular in the 70s and everybody had it. But some of it's done really, really badly. And the worst that I've seen is in regard to our majestic friend, the lion. Brass lions are fucking horrible. And I'm going to tell you, most times, like there, does that look like a fucking lion to you? Like, it almost looks more like a sheep if you like burned its face off with a flamethrower. Or you get this one that looks more like the creature from the Black Lagoon than a lion. Hopefully you can see that, because or this bigger guy here. I've got a small pride of these things because I get them every time I see them. A lot of them come into my work, so they immediately come home with me. But yeah, brass lions, ridiculous. Or you'll get something like like Burn Victim Dwarf. I don't know who the hell made this, but that's goddamn horrifying. And then last, probably the pièce de résistance of my collection, Homek Baphomet. I found this at a thrift store. It was in with all the coffee cups, and I was like, eh? Somebody made this in a ceramics course. Or maybe at school. I would love to know the backstory. I would like to know if whoever made this is currently in an institution. But Homek Baphomet is ridiculous. They even put like the freaking tug in them. This thing is just weird. So yeah. Anyway, that's what I got. Sorry this video went so long, but that was a lot of shit to unpack. So yeah, congrats again, Dennis, and yeah, I'll talk to you all later.